America and Israel will not survive Iran's strategy. A realistic geopolitical story. The skies over the Middle East were eerily silent, but within that silence lurked an invisible storm. In early 2026, world politics suddenly took a new turn. The United States and Israel jointly launched a massive airstrike on Iran's military installations. The aim of the attack was to destroy Iran's missile force and stop its nuclear program. But they made a big mistake. They thought the war would be quick. Iran would collapse within days. But Iran had a completely different plan. The beginning of the war. When the first bombs fell in the skies over Tehran, the whole world thought the war would be over in a few weeks. But Iran immediately began to strike back. Missiles, drones, cyber attacks. Almost every American base in the Middle East was targeted. Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, everywhere started to get hit. It wasn't just revenge, it was a strategy. Iran's real plan. Iran knew that it was impossible to win against a powerful country like America in a direct war, so they chose asymmetric war. The rules of this war are different. Iran started three things at once: long-range missile attacks, proxy war, hitting the world economy. According to analysts, Iran has changed its military policy after the 2025 war, and now they are using drones, missiles, and regional networks to create long-term pressure. The goal of this strategy was simple: not a quick victory, but rather slowly increasing political pressure, economic pressure, and military pressure, until the opponent was exhausted. Oil war. Iran knew there was a weak spot in the world. Its name is the Strait of Hormuz. Almost one-third of the world's oil passes through this sea route. When the war began, Iran threatened to close the route. Some tankers were damaged, commercial shipping stopped. Oil prices on the world markets suddenly skyrocketed. Suddenly, the economies of Europe, Asia, and America came under pressure. New fronts opened. Meanwhile, the war was not limited to Iran and Israel. Iran's ally in Lebanon, Hezbollah, began attacking Israel. Houthi rebels from Yemen also began firing missiles. The entire Middle East burned together. This was no longer a war of one country. It became a war across the region. The beginning of America's problems. In the first few days, America and Israel were forced to fend off thousands of missiles. Their defenses were very strong, but the problem was elsewhere. Iran was firing new missiles every day. Slowly, the stock of defenses began to decrease. This was part of Iran's plan, to tire out the enemy. World reaction. The whole world was terrified by this war. Thousands of people began to flee the Middle East. Even thousands of American citizens left the region. European countries began to call for an end to the war because they realized if this war lasted long, the entire world economy could collapse. Last question. Iran's strategy was simple but terrible. Not a quick victory. Rather, slowly increasing political pressure, economic pressure, and military pressure until the opponent was exhausted. End of the story. Sirens began to sound again in the night sky. People in Tel Aviv were running for shelters. Warships were sailing in the Persian Gulf. Generals in Washington were looking at maps. And a strategist in Tehran is calmly saying, "We will not win this war today, but we will make sure that they never win." That was Iran's strategy, a war of patience, and the outcome of that war is yet to be written.